All right, quick sound check. I have full volume. You have like.
Daniel-san.
War. War never changes.
Hello, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls. Welcome to War Never Changes, episode 28, entitled The Friendiversary. That's right. As Phil, who is sitting over there, Phil McCracken, 50 cal himself, getting texts because he doesn't know how to mute his phone after
Oh,
28
dude. In
recordings.
28 episodes, I forget one time. Fuck right off. Fuck off.
Meanwhile, the epitome of perfection, you know me as the host with the most. Wearing my Disney shirt. Phil is also wearing a Disney shirt because, as Phil pointed out, is this not a Disney shirt?
No, it's Hawaiian Santa Claus.
Oh, okay, never mind. Start over. No. I thought it was like a cruise shirt. It looked like, you know what it
It
kind of.
is. It is. It is. It's a cruise shirt. I had it for my cruise.
Okay, good enough. The reason Phil is wearing what he is wearing and the reason I am wearing what I am wearing is it was brought to my attention that today is our friendiversary, which I didn't even know, honestly, that was a term, nor did I ever track this in my life. But you, Phil, brought it to my attention and you said that it was what, tell the story, walk me through this again.
So because both of us abhor the idea of eating with large swaths of children and large families, we both picked the later dining option for our cruise. They let you pick between 5:30 and 8:30. So we
Right.
both happened to pick 8:30, which was fortuitous. And 1 year ago today, as of 8:30 p.m., 1 year ago today,
November 4th,
we
yes.
yes, we will have met and become friends, and I will bestow upon you the best 1 year period of your motherfucking life.
And
That's it.
here we are. 28 episodes later, probably have, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 29 views.
Total cumulative.
Total views. And yes, so very good. Here's to, I have my coveted water. Cheers to 1 year. I did wear my Disney Cruise Line shirt. So I did think of it because typically I usually wear a video game shirt or a suit or a smoking jacket. It was one of those three things I'm always wearing. So today I wanted to start off the show with, I think, the most important piece of news. Obviously, besides the friendiversary, and that is Todd Howard, your best friend, the right hand man of your other best friend, Mr. Pete Hines himself, the Demon Deacon, the man who put Bethesda on the map. I know you love Pete Hines. I know you love Todd Howard. You're a huge fan of their work. Is this right?
I actually do love Todd Howard. I don't mind. I'm not mad at Todd Howard. I feel as though he's been manipulated and bullied into being a person less respectable than I would like him to be by the horrible piece of shit that is Pete Hines, but
Damn.
that's just my opinion.
Damn. Okay. So I got half right.
Half right. You're batting 500, which is a $200 million contract any way you slice it, buddy.
That's right. So good old Todd Howard did an interview and I have dissected it. Did you get a chance to listen to the whole thing or did you just read the Cliff Notes or do you just read my Cliff Notes of the Cliff Notes?
I read your Cliff Notes of the Cliff
Okay,
Notes.
so you're twice removed from the news. You're gonna have to trust that I knew what I read or what I heard rather, because I did listen to the entire interview. It was a really good interview with GameIndustry.biz, and Todd had a lot to say, and I thought we would talk about it here because honestly, Bethesda has been obviously it's ingrained in the name of the show. It's my absolute favorite studio in the entire planet, and it seems like with the acquisition of Bethesda, that's all we talk about now because it's still like Microsoft owns like Bethesda, like it's still like here we are weeks later, and I'm still blown away by it.
Same.
So the first thing he talked about was the creation engine, and I know that you skipped Fallout 76, and according to you, it was a broken piece of shit. I think
Hmm.
it's the word. I don't remember the exact quote you used, but that's probably you probably did say that at some point about this game.
For sure.
Um, Thankfully, this is now officially the last Bethesda game using that old, antiquated creation engine. Todd Howard has even said the engine is old, it is tired, it is broken, it is time for a significant overhaul. And before we move on past that, I want to say that just because the engine is being upgraded doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good engine. Look no further than the Slipstream engine with Halo Infinite and how bad that game looked. Cost old Chris Lee his job. I mean, but this is exciting news, right? I mean, you got to think that this is going to change a lot of the game, right?
Yeah, it's exciting and it's also not exciting because to know that that Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6 are already either in production or in pre-production or in some stage. Starfield is in some stage of production and Elder
Yeah,
Scrolls is at least in pre-production.
right.
To know that they have to stop, like they realized at some point through Starfield, like Creation Engine may not be able to do this.
Right.
The idea that they have to stop and totally rework the engine kind of sucks because that delays the game by at least another 6 months, conservatively speaking.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure, I don't know. He wasn't really clear as if like, hey, listen, we are starting over. And they may have thought of this beforehand. They may have just realized they can't work with it, but they worked miracles on that engine really leading into Fallout 4. And that game was starting to come apart at the seams. But by the time we got to 76, it was incredibly clear to many of us that that engine was just beyond buggy, broken, old, antiquated. It looked great for Fallout 3, but Fallout 3 was a billion years ago, and life has moved on. So, a couple things that means. The one thing that he highlighted specifically to the new creation engine, or whatever they're going to call it, or just updated, you're going to get to see games with larger capital cities that are going to lead to additional NPCs. So it's going to look and feel even more like a city than it has now, with more quests and more situational dialogue. So I thought that was cool. Don't know how Cyberpunk's going to pull that off. We've talked about that last week. But I think having a vibrant city or cities is really in the DNA of an Elder Scrolls game, particularly. I'll be really curious to see if they can pull anything off with that meaningfully. You know what I mean?
Do we need games to be any bigger?
No, that's a good point. I don't think the size matters because the truth is, you know, I don't think the size matters because the I've always felt like let's take Elder Scrolls Skyrim for example, right? When you walk the first time from let's say Whiterun to Solitude or
Oh my
Markarth
God.
or Riften,
Oh,
it's a haul, right?
yeah, it takes for fucking ever.
It does. And you feel like you're actually going on a real quest. Like you go through multiple biomes. It's snowy, then it's like there's trees, and as you go down the hill, it becomes more foresty. You cross over rivers, you cross over bridges, you cross forts, you cross travelers in the street. Like it feels like a robust experience to me. So I don't think the game needs to be bigger. But if you want to make it more dense and you want to add more cool things that I'm going to experience along the way, I'm okay with that.
Exactly. It is my and man, this is probably going to be a super unpopular sentiment.
Oh, here we go.
Um, it
Fiddle's hot
is my
takes.
it's my opinion that Fallout 4 was too big. There was too much going on. I didn't care enough about the environment
Okay.
to explore it. And I feel like they put all this work into building this big, beautiful, interactive environment that I didn't give a shit about. I was just kind of following the storylines and I didn't explore. And that maybe because random death claws kept jumping out at me. But that's just a feature of the game. Like
Right.
I signed up for Fallout knowing that death claws are a thing and that they're everywhere. But I felt like I feel like if games never got really any bigger than Fallout 4's map, with of Nuka World or whatever, you
Yeah.
take all that together and you make it a game. I don't really know that a game has to be bigger than that, to be totally truthful with you. I don't need to spend. I don't need to be able to like jaw jack with my buddies, be like, yeah, did you play blah 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 game last night? Yeah, I decided to see how long it would take me to walk from one end of the map, and it took me 6 IRL hours. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not interested in that. I'm looking to get somewhere and unlock fast travel. That's all I'm looking to do. So, I don't know.
that's true.
Maybe I tell me what you think. Give me feedback on the feedback I just gave you.
No, I think that's a good point. I didn't take the news. I see what you're saying. I didn't take the thought of this engine to mean the game space is going to be 3 times as large. So, like, take the map of Skyrim or Fallout 76 and multiply it by 4. I agree with you. I don't think people have patience or the willingness to play one game forever. We'll talk about that actually a little later about some of the upcoming games and some of the lulls I'm seeing. So maybe now actually would be a good time. We know this game's very far out from coming, but the truth is, yeah, people aren't really investing hundreds of hours into games anymore. That's just not the way things are. It's we've moved on. There's way too many things to play. So I agree. I think a lot of their space would just be wasted. And I don't necessarily need 5,000 things to unlock on my map on my way to the big stuff. You want to give me little stuff, that's fine. But, you know, in reality, you didn't, if you're trying to simulate like a medieval world, it wasn't like there was a castle every 10 feet apart. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, these strongholds meant something. It was a place where everybody came together. It meant something. So that's where I feel like a larger area inside the city walls with more to do in the city, I think would be much more appreciated than what you're talking to with this. What they said is going to be more procedurally generated levels, which means they're not going to handcraft everything because they're going to paint it out. They're going to make it bigger and more boring. They're not going to do the handcraft stuff like they did before. That's what worries me.
Yeah. And I don't want that. And like
Same.
to kind of and not to contradict you,
Go
um,
ahead.
well, you know, there's such things.
Friendiversary is now officially over. The claws come out. Go ahead. I'm taking the
No,
shirt
no,
off. What
no.
do you got? No, go ahead.
I want to say that I agree with the sentiment of you saying that people don't want to put hundred of game hours in anymore.
Hmm.
I will if I give a shit about the game and I give a
Okay.
shit about the backstory. For Fallout 76, I have or not, Fallout New Vegas. Jeez, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, New
I was
Vegas.
like, wow, dude. You're
I'm so
like
sorry I compared to you.
secretly playing New Vegas or secretly playing Fallout
No,
76 for years.
yeah, on PS4 the whole time.
Secretly, yeah.
No, I have probably 1,000 hours into Skyrim, but that's because the world to me is
Yeah.
interesting. The NPC interactions, while limited, are funny. There's a million interesting being the key qualifying word there, side
Yeah.
missions, and the main story mission is interesting too, and it spawns all these different side missions, and they have all these rare, Daedric
Hmm.
weapons, and these artifacts and stuff, and like if I care about the backstory of a game, I'll spend time logging hours and hours and hours into it. But you need to also know your audience and play to your
Right.
strengths. Um, Skyrim is super story driven, whereas Fallout to me has never been super story
Agreed.
driven. It's like, oh, you woke up, you're a courier that got shot in the head. Go to New Vegas and find this guy in this pinstripe suit. That's not a very compelling story, but the action and the stuff you get to do is cool. I don't want to I don't want to spend 100 hours exploring a destroyed dystopian like nuclear fallout zone, Boston.
I
I
gotcha.
don't. It's depressing. It really
No,
is. I want to go kill
that's a
shit.
good point. I agree with you. I think Fallout stories suffer because of that. And I think when you look at a Fallout story, they are very one sided. The side quests are somewhat okay, but you're right. It's more the gunplay and the exploration than it is the story base of a Skyrim or Elder Scrolls, I should say. So, yeah, I'm curious which direction they'll take with Starfield. If they're going to go, I don't know if they have a new idea in mind or not, but yeah, you're right. I was definitely compelled playing Skyrim to go see and talk with people. As more in Fallout, I was just blowing through text because I wanted to go shoot something.
I wonder if the and don't get offended with me here, people. I'm not I am not putting this accusation out. This is just the general feeling that I've gotten from the gaming
Here we
community surrounding
go.
the game.
Phil's hot take.
Because, because of the way that the Outer Worlds flopped. I mean,
Oh,
the Outer Worlds is basically just a Fallout, sort of Skyrim type
yeah,
game hybrid that's in space. And I don't know what direction that Starfield is going to take,
right.
but it turns out people aren't all that interested in that kind of game. So I would be interested to see if we ever find out that because it was sort of a commercial and ratings flop, that maybe the team over at Starfield had to pivot, and that's adding to the overall length of the production time for the game. Or
Good point.
I wonder what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know, the Bethesda formula seems to work mostly. Obviously, they've made a lot of money on Fallout. They've made a lot of money on Elder Scrolls. Um, so that formula works. I don't know if it's the Bethesda magic behind it, which I don't even really know what that is, other than like a buggy hot mess of a game. I don't know if that's what people want, but you're right. I mean, there's been a lot of clone type games that just don't really hold people's interest. They're not, like you said, they're not commercially as successful. Those companies aren't getting bought. Obsidian's not being bought out for billions and billions of dollars. Yes, Microsoft did ultimately buy them, so we'll be curious to see when Bethesda and Obsidian, are both wearing Microsoft shirts or on the water cooler, like, hey, so you tried to make a game like us. Yeah, that didn't work out for you. Like, I would love to be the banter between those two teams. But
Say,
knowing the
fuck you.
exactly. But knowing that those games are really far off, that Elder Scrolls is not coming anytime soon, and Starfield sooner, but still far away. Yeah, you wonder how many lessons learned that they've learned from Obsidian and talking to them. And when I see larger, I think dense. But you're right; it could be size, and I think that would be a horrible mistake. I do agree with you. It'll. I mean, you're going to have a galaxy to explore probably in Starfield. You're going to probably have like 20 planets to go see. If the planets are fully rendered, you could fly all around them in a spaceship. You're talking a lot of content, but yeah, do people care is the question. And if they don't, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, also, I don't know how I feel about this procedurally rendered like nonsense. It's like how again, we go back to how massive does the game need to be, and it's like a quantity versus quality issue. Nobody outside of there is no following for the well there is there's a subreddit for it, and people are like circle jerking each other, and it's going to be the next great opus of Todd Howard. It may end up being our mutual favorite Bethesda franchise fucking
Ever,
ever. Who
ever.
knows? There is no following for this game yet,
Right.
so what they do with it is going to determine the long-term success of this new franchise. And I feel like nobody is asking for a procedurally generated massive space Fallout. Like, no one asked for that, and innovation's great. I'm happy that they're doing new creative things, and I'm going to buy this game, and I'm going to play it, and I'm going to give it a fair shot, and I'm going to put at least 100 hours into it until I either give up or fall in love with it.
Right.
But I don't want to see them sacrifice the quality of the environment in order to make it big, because that will be a failure. Calling it right now.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I guess it'll remain to be seen. It's still a long ways out. So we've got a long ways to go before we're really going to hear anything about this. He didn't specify a date. I'm thinking 2022 for Starfield. I could be wrong. I don't know.
You think that soon?
Could be even longer. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's, they've been working on it a while. I mean, I've got to think that they knew when Fallout 76 was being close to being done. I think the team knew it was not what they wanted it to be. I think it was like, well, we could spend another $1 million or $1 billion or whatever investing in this, or we're going to cash out and move on. And I think Starfield development began a lot sooner, as people on that program were like, this isn't what we want it to be. This isn't quite there. The engine's not working right. The multiplayer isn't as fun, as engaging as we thought. So I think they've been working on it a lot longer.
Okay. So when you say when the production team was almost done with Fallout 76? Do you mean like a week ago when they patched it and it like sort of started working?
I mean, hey, listen, I am retiring from defending that game. I don't play it regularly because I have other better games to play. But if it was the only game I had left, I would make it work. I could make it work. I would play it. It would be okay. I suspect when the day comes and we get some consoles, we get these Series X's in our hands, we'll play it on Game Pass, and I think you'll think it's okay. I do. You don't? Oh, you froze. All right, we're going to take a quick time out as Phil's technical issues. Unless he's really just thinking about it really hard. And we're going to do a quick jump cut and we'll be right back. And we're back. We had some minor technical issues, but it's okay. Listen, it wouldn't be a friendiversary, Phil, if there weren't some technical issues, okay?
It wouldn't be this show if we didn't have technical issues. We've never gone unscathed before.
Very rarely. And when we do, nobody watches. So I can't prove it that it happened. Moving on from what we were talking about, and a really good segue that I had that you totally missed about moving to Xbox. I want to talk briefly about the storage space that has been revealed now across all platforms. The Series S will have 360 gigabytes of usable storage. The Series X will have 825 gigabytes usable storage. Pretty good. But the old PS5 is going to run you about 650. Now, game development, typically 4K textures do account for about 25 to 35% of the entire storage space. However, if you have a Series S, as in Sierra, on pre-order right now, I think you're pretty damn worried. What do you think?
Yeesh. Yeesh is all I can
Right?
say. I'm glad I didn't pre-order one. Man, what a piece of shit.
So a digital only console right now, using today's numbers, which honestly we know that isn't true. We know that the scales will be different because it's not going to support true 4K in a Series S. They've already said that. They're banking that you're going to get a lot smaller installation size. But the problem is a game like Call of Duty, which is massive, a game like Final Fantasy 15, which is massive, a lot of more popular games that are these world building games are running about 100 gigabytes. You might be able to trim off some fat minus the 4K, but you're still probably looking at 75 to 80 gigabytes for a meaningful experience. And knowing you're going to have, at best, 360 to work with, you're talking like 4 games in indies. And that's really about all you're going to be able to fit on here. That's not good.
I hope you like compromised loading speed due to external hard drives.
That's so exact. I was gonna say. So now the trade-off is you're gonna have to buy that external drive, which in theory is supposed to be about as fast as what they have, or you're gonna have to accept that your really fancy new console, there's a reason why it was so cheap, and now you're starting to see it, which was my fear all along. I thought that this console was a bad idea. And in today's, listen, to put it in perspective, that Xbox 360 that I beat out that little kid in line for when I was number 17 in line and I got the last Elite 360 and he got the core behind me, that was 500 gigabytes. And that was not, that seemed like a lot at the time. But here we are 10 years, 8 years later, whatever, and we're still talking about this imaginary hump. We cannot get over this 500 gigabyte hurdle. I got to be really worried right now for Series X owners, knowing this is a digital world. You're going to be downloading a shit ton of stuff, deleting it, re-downloading it, or you're going to be investing quite a bit on these little hard drives because you are just going to be dumb out of luck real quick.
Yeah, I hope all you Series S people and all your Series S buddies get together like on Sunday night and like, okay guys, what do we want to play
It's
this week? Monday and Tuesday, we need to have games start downloading so we can play them by Wednesday.
all joking aside, honestly, I totally agree with you. And I think for people with slower download speeds, and thankfully, minus technical issues we've had here, for the most part, our internet speeds are pretty decent. You have way better speeds up there than I do down here. But it's not like I can get a game in a couple hours if I need to. Some of these big 100 gig games, but yeah, you're gonna have to basically like on launch night, Xbox is gonna allow you to preload it. You're gonna need it because you're gonna be deleting and installing stuff constantly on this thing.
Yeah, it's not a good situation. And you know what? It was nice that Xbox tried to make gaming, next gen gaming, more accessible and inclusive to
Yeah,
everyone, but there were too many trade-offs at that price point.
yeah,
Just tell people to buy the Xbox One X. That's the trade-off. It's still an immensely powerful video game machine. All the games that I play on it look stunning on my 1.5-year-old
right.
television. I don't see the appeal of the Series S other than it's the shiny, it's the most whatever. It's got a solid state drive that won't hold anything.
Well, not to pick on Xbox too much, PlayStation 650 gigabytes is
Shameful.
shameful in a different way because that is a full price console. That's going to run you some serious change. They have yet to announce any external drives, although I believe you're going to be able to use commercial M.2 drives. However, it remains to be seen how much of the solid state amazing 2-second load times we actually get on those. So that's going to be compromised as well. The only advantages are going to be cheaper than the proprietary Xbox drive. However, a brand new console with that amount of usable space is kind of shameful too in its own way.
Yeah, the starting point is 1 terabyte. Okay,
Yes.
let's stop beating around the bush. Like the bare minimum, it should be 2 terabytes. Honestly, Westgate makes a single state drive that's like I think 6 terabytes.
There are solid state
So
drives that are
the
up to
te-
like 12 or 14 gigabytes now. Yeah, they're monsters.
yeah, yeah, the technology is fucking
It
out there.
is. It
So
is.
the idea that we can't even start with the benchmark of 1 terabyte and like I'm upset because I'm dumb. I thought that the 825 gigabyte measure was what was going to be left over after the UX and all that stuff that has to be built into it. They're starting with 825.
Yeah.
Come on.
I understand with both the PS5 and the Series S. I understand it was done entirely for cost savings. However, that is shameful and embarrassing. And I just wanted to highlight that and say that as much as a Sony guy as I am, that one hurts. And I feel even worse for my brethren on the S side who are getting half of what I'm getting. And I'm not getting that much to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about these poor fucks that are only going to be able to have 4 games. We're not doing much better, Jim. We're only going to be able to have like 5 or 6. I know right now on my Xbox One X, with its full 1 fucking terabyte benchmark starting place,
You have plenty of room. I know.
I have I before I hooked up my external hard drives, I had like 13 or 14 games downloaded. So
You were good.
yeah,
So the reason I brought that up was because we are fast approaching what used to be known as Broketober. Broketober was traditionally when we all lost a shit ton of money because we had to have every game, which typically launched around October. Now, COVID and console launches and other circumstances have pushed that back slightly, but we got a lot of games coming out. We got Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Demon Souls, Spider-Man, Godfall, Black Ops, Hyrule Warriors, Immortals Phoenix Rising, and Cyberpunk are the ones that I deemed as like potential A-tier games. The jury's out on a few of them, definitely. A Ratchet and Clank is in the launch window. That does not include the list of about 20 games: Beyond Good and Evil, Overwatch, Diablo, Dying Light, Far Cry, Halo Infinite, Deathloop, Elden Ring, Ghostwire Tokyo, Horizon Forbidden West, Resident Evil 8 Village that are on the horizon. My question to you is, are you a little nervous that your fancy dancy console is going to be able to play maybe 4 of these games at any given time. Like you should be really glad you bought that disc PlayStation 5. You're gonna need it.
Oh man, jeez. Yeah, this is disturbing. Shame on you, Sony. This is just another feather in the hat of the Xbox Series X that we've spent the last 6 months just ripping apart.
Yeah, they got it right at the end, didn't they? Really, really, really at the end of it, the little extra storage space and that modular thing may be the difference. I think maybe a lot of people are gonna, when you start really looking at this list of games, and there's some good ones. I have most of them on pre-order, with the exception of Godfall. I'm not really quite sure what that game's going to be about. Um, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of stuff, and it really remains to be seen the install size on these. The review embargo broke for Xbox about a week ago. PlayStation's was supposed to release today. I still haven't seen much yet, so maybe they've pushed it back or I was incorrect on the date. I'm curious, and nobody's talking about install sizes. Everyone's talking about read write speed and 4K textures and blah blah blah. But I'm like, get to the numbers. Like, how big is this? And no one want. I guess they're not allowed to say. But we're gonna have some serious downloading in our future, my friend.
Yeah. So just for the sake of the viewer base, you're talking about these commercial M.2 SSDs.
Yeah.
How much does one of those, like, say we wanted to get into an entry level 2 terabyte? What's something like that going to run us?
Expensive, and I'm going to tell you right now. There's obviously different ones with like latencies and download speeds. I recommend the one I have is called the Samsung 980 Pro. Let's see if they even offer it in 2 terabytes. A 1 terabyte is $230 right now on Amazon. You can scale it down, and the way that when they did that teardown of the PS5, I was looking for that, and I did see slots for different sizes. And M.2, the bigger it is, the longer it gets. It's a flat little chip. So a little one's tiny, and then as they get longer, they extend out. And on the PlayStation teardown, you can see distinct holes for like the 250 gig, the 500 gig, the terabyte. I don't even know if they offer 2 terabyte yet. I don't think Samsung does. I would have bought it because that's what I run on my gaming PC. They are incredibly fast, but clearly they're not cheap. So you're going to add another.
So I can't wait to get this brand new console in the mail, fucking disassemble it, and install a proper sized hard drive on there.
Yeah, I mean, so what this will be probably is some sort of cold swap, very similar to what I think the Xbox Series X wants you to do, where you're gonna basically like have them games installed and like move them over to the big boy drive when you want to play, and then transfer them back off to the M.2 when you're not using them.
Yeah. Now, when we take this PlayStation apart, because we're both gonna end up having to do this, so I'm sure we'll see a video on your main channel at Viper Magic on YouTube. I'm sure that you'll do that. Is the PlayStation going to let you run with both, so the internal and the
Yes.
external?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yes, you'll have them both. I don't know the interface of what it's going to look like. They haven't shown that part of it yet. I don't know if when you install a game, it'll be like a PC and it'll say like, where do you want it? The C drive, the D drive, like where do you want to put this thing? That part remains to be seen, but yes. Same with the Xbox. Right now the way your Xbox works when you plug in your external drive is Xbox just kind of treats it as like a big bay of storage. Like you don't really, it'll direct you like, hey, it's going to load on your external, but you don't really notice it. Obviously, with these new faster speeds, you are going to notice it. I'm not sure how much faster the internal PlayStation drive is over an M.2. If it turns out it's negligible, that would actually be pretty interesting. And since these are widely commercially available, you're going to see some major price wars, and that price is going to drop very rapidly because they know that they know they just got, a potential, 100 million army strong of people wanting to buy stuff, and they're going to want to sell it to you, and they're going to undercut each other. So that's good for us.
Yeah, but it's horrible that we're in this position in the first
Oh,
place.
yeah.
Really, truly, shame on Sony.
Shame, yeah, really, really shame on the Series S, but really shame on Sony for their big flagship console. And imagine the people who have the digital one in a very similar boat. Without that, at least the S, you could say, well, it's not 4K textures, but you know what? You're going to have those monster textures on the PS5 all digital, and you're going to see some monster games fill up that hard drive rapidly.
and watch them make us look like dicks because they've got some sort of optimization that keeps those download files to the minimum. I'm going to say if they haven't gotten any background technology wizardry that we don't know about yet, like keeping these things from being gargantuan, I'm going to say Spider-Man Miles Morales is probably going to be a massive game because we have to scale fucking New York City. So I'm going to say that that introductory download is going to, I'm going to say that that game's going to start around at least 85 gigs. So that game alone
Yeah,
is taking up, a fifth of the available space that you have.
that's what I mean. And that's one game, and that's a launch game. And there, as I mentioned, I just read 15 games off that are coming. So yeah, you're right. It's not
Hope you
good,
like
man.
that backlog.
You just got to buy like multiple PlayStations and just switch the HDMI cable because it's going to be cheaper.
Speaking of which, I've got a few coming next Thursday.
That's right. You're gonna need them all. You're just gonna stack them like a sandwich. You're just gonna have an HDI, just write on marker on the cover of the case what the games are on there, and then you'll know. Like your own.
Did you cancel your other pre-orders
I
yet?
have not canceled anything yet. My Target headphone debacle continues on. Supposedly, I will get them tomorrow. These Pulse headphones. Best Buy, I was supposed to get an email for this early pickup. Getting the PlayStation 5. I registered for it. I never got a response, so I don't know what's going on there. I don't know where I'm getting one from. I don't want to have to return 50 of them, but that might be what I end up doing. I have no idea.
Yeah. Hey kids, Jim's not going to cancel shit.
Well, actually, I noticed my monitor is a little.
Well, actually.
Actually, my monitor, my ultra wide monitor is a little crooked. I might use one of the PlayStations to lift it up a little bit higher because I want it to be smooth. I don't
Hmm.
know. We'll see. Squeaky chair.
Cost
I don't know. I'll
effective.
figure something out for him.
I like it. No, using what you have instead of going out and buying something new. I like
Yeah,
it.
I'm not an asshole. Come on. Um, the one game I wanted to draw some attention to and give some love to Nintendo was Hyrule Warriors. And I know you said it wasn't for you, but to be fair, I did download and play The Age of Calamity. And I'm here to tell you that if the frame rate didn't suck, I would really be hyping this game up really big right now. You would like it.
Yeah, was it that much fun?
It was. Okay, you'll now notice that both Phil and I are stationary fellows. It's because our internet is slowly degrading. Maybe mine, maybe his, maybe both. So we are just voices in your ear now. What I was starting to talk about before we cut out was the Hyrule Warriors, and particularly when Zelda Breath of the Wild came out. And I did some research while we were puttering around, and it actually came out in 2017. But you got to admit, Phil, that Breath of the Wild, as popular as a franchise as it's been, there hasn't been much Zelda in a while, right? I mean, there hasn't been a lot going on there.
That's true.
So I was really excited for Hyrule Warriors because I really had this feeling that we would get, a little bit more story, and it is going to fill in that time period. Breath of the Wild did start really in the middle of the story. The world had been lost. There'd been this long period of time. The Calamity Ganon had come and basically destroyed everything. And the truth is, like, I wanted to know what happened. So this game fills in those gaps.
Right.
And that's cool. That's exciting. Um, Unfortunately, it does do everything you would like in a Zelda game. There is crafting, there is cooking, there is Korok hunting. You use a Sheikah slate with powers, your stasis, your bombs, your cryosis, your magnesis. It has a paraglider. The only difference is there's multiple heroes in battle, and you can swap between any of them at any time. Like, how cool does this sound, right? Like, it sounds like a cool game.
Yeah.
But
But
it runs like shit.
really,
Bad, really bad. And I know that I am a snob when it comes to performance and frame rates and such. But I'm telling you that it's like almost unplayable by how bad it skips. You thought our upload speed on our Skype video was bad. um, And it's frustrating because I can feel that Nintendo put a lot of effort into this. Like, when you kill like the little enemies in the game, they drop little sticks and they drop weapons and they drop things that you would have picked up, the little guts, the little horns and all that you use to craft. Like those exist in the game. So they put them in the game. Unfortunately, you're never going to really get into it because by the time you start playing it and you really start to experience it, you're going to get a headache by how bad the frame rate is.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, so it's frustrating. And I just wanted to say that, like, I feel like this would have been a really cool game had they been able to figure this stuff out. But unfortunately, I just think it's going to be a pass for a lot of people when they see the performance on it. And it sucks because it is going to fill in the gaps of Breath of the Wild. It's definitely not a proper sequel, but it's everything you love about Breath of the Wild with just a lot more combat and no weapon durability loss.
Yeah. Um, and that sounds cool on its face, but I really, so it is a big open world wander around game, or is it a linear story with just huge boss battles?
It's a linear story with huge areas to explore, but they're mapped and they're like instance. So you're gonna like do one little area and then like you're gonna clear the battle and then it's gonna load you into a new area and you're gonna clear the battle. It's gonna be like that. It's not like an open world game per se where you can freely go wherever you want. Although the maps themselves are massive. They're very, very big. Each area you go to check out.
Yeah, that just isn't all that interesting to me as a Zelda or as a Legend of Zelda game. I'm very accustomed to Legend of Zelda games being kind of like, well, with the exceptions of the ones for the NES and SNES or whatever,
Right.
since N64 came around and we had the magnum opus, which was the Ocarina of Time, or as you incorrectly say it, the Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina. That's right. The Ocarina. Yeah.
So when you talk about like ocular surgery or ocular therapy, do you say ocular therapy and ocular surgery?
Well, I talk about ocular therapy daily, so I do get that word correctly. Yes, thank you for reminding me that my left eye is totally fucked.
Oh, dude, I totally forgot about that. I'm sorry.
Boo!
Oh man, now I
It's
feel like a
fine.
dick.
Good. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Um, what? But yeah, no, I'm not interested in that. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to play it. But I'm happy that you had fun with it, other than the headache that its frame rate gave you. I'm surprised that you're
That's
surprised
right.
that a game that was optimized for Nintendo Switch didn't run well.
Yeah, I have better thoughts or better hopes. Like Mario Odyssey ran so well. It's such a beautiful
Yeah.
game. And that game's got a lot going on. There's a lot of movement and just you're making a combat game where there's going to be a lot of stuff on the screen. Like it's got to look decent. I don't need 120 frames a second, 4K, but like this game struggles to get 15 frames a second at times. It just looks ugly,
Yeah.
and it breaks the experience. That's I think the biggest thing is it breaks the experience.
Yeah, I agree. I think that maybe the Switch isn't the right console for you.
It depends on the game, but I agree. It's definitely like my little indie machine, and I like playing certain games on it. But I'm hopeful that I don't know what I'm hopeful for. They haven't seemed to Mario. Smash looks great. Mario Brothers looks great. I'm sorry, Mario Odyssey looks great. Mario Kart looks great. Breath of the Wild looked okay, but this is definitely 10 steps backwards.
Yeah. Uh, uh,
And you played, and it still blows my mind that you played Skyrim on this thing. That's what blows my mind more than anything else. Like Skyrim doesn't run on my freaking PS4 Pro. It's just like 800 times more powerful than a Switch, and you played that on a Switch. Like that's just so much dedication. It blows my mind.
I love Skyrim. I really do.
So you just look through all the
Yeah,
crap.
it's just a special game in my heart, man. I'll play Ocarina of Time on the Switch. I'll play Grand Theft Auto Vice City on the Switch. I'll play Skyrim on the Switch. There's a certain set of games that I hold really near and dear to my heart that I would look past basically anything to enjoy them.
So speaking of games you love, we did not get a chance to talk about your final thoughts on Tom Clancy's The Division. This is your first games as a service. You have now largely beaten the game, although I guess you could go back and be a true completionist and collect every little upgrade and every little echo and every little cell phone recording and all that stuff. But you've done a lion's share of the activities. What are your thoughts on the division now that the smoke is cleared?
I wish that it was still happening. I wish we were still playing this game. I wish it wasn't over, but unfortunately it is. You know, I don't know because I didn't experience it without you. I don't know how much having you there factored into how much I enjoyed it. Obviously, dicking around with you and randomly screaming "Danielson" into the microphone adds a lot of fun to the overall experience. But this is just a game that I absolutely fell in love with. I couldn't wait to play it with you. I got annoyed when I couldn't play certain nights and we didn't get to do any missions. I can remember being actually fucking annoyed when I had to go do something and we couldn't play the division one night. Um,
Do you feel that way about other nights when we can't play, or was it specifically for this game?
Well, other night it's not very often that we can't play because of me. I usually, I don't have quite as much going on as you because you're always, doing stuff for work or out walking or doing something with Rachel to improve the house. You have a lot going on in your life, whereas my wife is always very busy with work, so I seem to have more free time. So I'm usually more understanding, but on the nights when you came to me and wanted to play and I couldn't play, I remember this.
Oh, understand. So you were agitated because it was that fun.
Correct. I, Jim, I wish that we were still playing it. I wish that we were going to log on and play it
We could
tonight.
still
No,
play.
there's nothing to do. It's boring now.
You could just run around and collect things.
No.
Don't you want to get the echoes and
No, I
shit?
don't. I hate the echoes. I really do.
So that's what brings me to this is my question to you. This and I've tried many times to explain the concept. Not that like you don't get it, but all the different facets of what a games as a service is, and definitely the one that is by far the most annoying is the fact that story takes an incredible back seat to some sort of action, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at times, but ultimately, when you finish the game, were you like, how did you feel? I felt hollow. I guess I felt like when I beat it the first time, I was like, wait, that's it, and that was it. It was that boring, and it was over. It didn't feel rewarding to me in the slightest.
Yeah, I feel robbed. But
Okay.
I just, I never this game. I wasn't playing this game because of the story. I was playing it because randomly one night you're like, Division is games with gold right now. You should download it. I think you'd like it. We'll play it together. So I did it, and we downloaded it. Other than the first night when I was having a hissy fit over something completely unrelated, we had a blast with it. But I never once paid attention to the story. There's like all this evidence that we've been gathering, and I don't even know how to look at that evidence. Like, I haven't been caring that much about um, the actual story. Like the chick that I don't even know her name, and I've talked to her at least 50 times in the last 6 weeks. Uh, yeah,
Faye.
Faye Lau or whatever her name is. I don't care about her and her one eye and her gimpy leg. I don't care about her sister. I don't
Damn.
care about the mean doctor, Paul. Paul, the only reason I care about Paul is because we have so much fun mocking his name out. Like, I don't care about any of the characters. I don't even know anything about my character. My character, to me, instead of being a character that I fell in love with, I don't know if my character has a name. Um, I don't know that.
No, you were just the division
Yeah,
agent.
yeah. So I didn't even care about my character. I cared about, having
Okay.
fun and progressing and doing the next thing and seeing what was going to happen.
I understand. Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem to me with the games as a service experience. Exactly what you just said. It definitely the focus is on getting you doing fun new activities, which typically involve harder and harder enemies to keep grinding for loot. Microtransactions play a large part of that. You want to get better. Now we were fortunate because when we started playing it, Uplay servers had gone down, So they basically gave us everything, and it was annoying that one night to unlock everything, but you got a lot of stuff. You got crafting materials, you got gun skins, you got different hats. Imagine all that stuff being stripped away. Like, in that sense, honestly, like you probably got about the best experience of the games as a service game as you're ever gonna get.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I enjoyed it, and I did play for about 6 hours one day without you. It's the only experience I had playing without you, and you know what I felt in those 6 hours? This,
Love for Mr. Miyagi.
yes, yes. Well, Mr. Miyagi, these are just fetch quests. It was just grindy fucking nonsense, but I had to do it so that I could level up and carry our team through the last couple missions. At least that
Yeah.
was my justification for playing it without you, but I didn't have nearly as much fun as playing it without you as I did with you. So I guess this is more of a game that I fell in love with as a social experience. I guess I'll term it like that.
Yeah, so my experience was it was definitely a lot more fun to play because I have played both single player and multiplayer. I mean, I would find it hard to say honestly any game is more fun alone. Um, but yeah, it is difficult in a game like that to appreciate the story because they don't want to break you out of the action. So they hide the story in places that you don't necessarily look. They're buried under menus, they're buried under little cutscenes. You never really feel invested to the world around you. You're just kind of observing it. That was something I noticed heavily with the Division. I'm sorry, Division, but I meant Destiny. That's when I first saw that, and that's when I really understood what that concept of a game was, game as a service. But I did enjoy it. I liked it, and I do. It was fun. I think it's just because it's such a pretty game. Even though it's so dated, it's got a really distinct feel to it, and I think that the level design really plays a strong part in my enjoyment of it. Like I really felt like I was in New York City.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of experience with being in New York City. So it was just like I recognize the names. Like I recognize Hell's Kitchen because that's where the Daredevil movie was. That's where the guy lived. He lived in Hell's Kitchen. So obviously I know Brooklyn and Bronx and all those things and Manhattan and Times
The
Square.
Bronx and
Yeah,
Yonkers.
Yonkers. I'm Paul. Come to Yonkers. We're gonna do some stuff
Paul
with
and
generators.
Yonkers. Yeah, go get these batteries and put them in this box, and then when you come out, you're gonna get shot.
Yeah. There's this little. I'm Paul. Come Paul. Come down here.
Poor
There's a
Paul. We
Japanese guy
made
and
so
a
much
little
fun of
kid
this.
here.
The real Paul, I'm sure whoever the voice actor is going to listen to this podcast and cry and be like, "Am I really that bad?" Yeah, Paul, you are. Um, so yeah, I guess I'm glad you liked it. I'll be curious as more of these games start to pop up. I know Godfall is going to be one of them that's very similar to this. Destiny is, which is going to, is coming on Game Pass, and you're going to be able to play that if it's something you're interested in. I'll be curious if it's something you stick with. Knowing you, you're probably going to hate it, but there are other games out there like this. If this was something you were interested in, but it is a grind. They are all grinds. We probably put, I'd say, what, 70 hours into this game? And you put in a little more, you said? You probably put in 80 hours, you said? You put the extra 10 or
I don't know,
whatever?
man. We played it for a long time. I'd say we have at least 100 hours into this thing.
Okay, even better to my point. 100 hours into this game, and there's a level cap of 30, and I think I got to 27, and you got to like mid 28.
29.
Okay, so you're close, but 100 hours to max out a game in pretty much any other game is insane.
Yeah. Um, and as it sits right now, I have less than zero interest in Destiny or Godfall. Godfall doesn't look interesting to me at all.
Yeah, that's one I've been kind of mum on. I'm waiting to get reviews, but I'm not holding my
Did
breath
you
for sure.
pre-order it?
No, I did not. I totally waited. It's funny because that was the first PlayStation 5 game announced, and that was the first PlayStation 5 like box art. That was the first time we ever actually got to see what the PlayStation 5 art looked like. And yeah, you would think like that was the one everybody was hot for, but I wasn't. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
because it's a stupid concept that no one wants.
So, as we wrap up today's show, my question for you, and you don't have to answer now, we got time. I listed all those games to you, and there's a lot coming out. We're going to be getting really close soon to a game of the year.
Okay.
So, you're going to have to start thinking of a game that really defines this year. It could be The Division. I mean, it doesn't have to have come out this year, but it's one that really like stands out
Oh,
in your
so
head. So your
A
homework,
Phil and Jim War Never Changes game of the year.
sure. I mean, we could do different categories if you want to be, listen, it has to be game of the year that would launch between January and December, whatever. And in that case, then you'd probably wait because it may be a game that comes out later. Um, but yeah, think of something. Start thinking. Start just casually. It could be an Xbox game. It could be a Switch game. It could be a cell phone game. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Of something that really was like, ooh, this really like, and maybe in a week or two after the PlayStation 5 comes out and the fanboyism fades, maybe we'll be able to go back and give an honest assessment of what really we think about
Do you
it.
not think that we should wait till the first week in January to do this, just in case, we stumble?
We could. You could. Typically, game of the year. I think the game awards this year like early December, and most people kind of do a November to like October-ish time
Okay.
period. But yeah, we could
No,
wait.
no, no.
I'm
It's
just,
okay.
I'm just, I'm not saying it has to be today. I'm just putting the feeler out there just to start pondering it.
Yeah. Let's
Plus, I needed an extra 3 minutes to round out the show to an hour, and I've successfully done that. So.
nice.
Noise. Now, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We apologize for the technical nonsense, but you got a really cool picture of me to stare at for the last 20 or so minutes. And who knows, if people like this format, we may consider just doing an audio version at some point with the gameplay and us talking over, some nonsense we've done in Master Chief Collection or in the Division or whatever. So if that's something that's intriguing to those who are the faithful few who are still listening, let us know.
Amen.
And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Phil for his notorious Phil's farewell. Unfortunately, since there is no camera, I'm not going to actually do the graphic, but just pretend that I'm not here, which is pretty easy because I'm actually not.
So, as a wise Japanese karate instructor named Mr. Miyagi always says to me, right before horrible things happen, Danielson, war never changes.
So stupid.